it's showing when you guys go in front of the Venice Neighborhood Council to seek the resolution. I guess that's going to a committee now. Like, yeah, that's typical. But would you mind talking a little bit about the campaign?
Yes, and actually, if you want to pass me that butcher paper, I had like the one right over here. It's kind of this call, yeah. It's got a call to action here. So, so yes, please. Thank you.
I was going to say that I think the larger backdrop is like, on the EDD website, it says that there's no more discussion for unemployment. So there's an anticipation that, there's going to be more unemployment and more. And then, like, I work for Longshore Union, and every day, every year, more automation is eliminating jobs. So, the issue is what's going to happen to this mass of people. So if there is a political will that could be developed, what I have always advocated is the creation of sustainable communities and sustainable practices and sustainable living environments to counteract like community-sponsored agriculture, something that to counteract this social engineering or this onslaught that's coming up.
I just want to briefly bring back, I mean, I would like to hear from, like, this is just a very basic analysis that we presented. I mean, what are the other reasons that all of this could be happening? I mean, we talked about policing tactics, gathering data, corporate profit making, profiling people. Are there other things that come to mind as well? That what is the purpose behind it? Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because Jesse Felicio, you dropped this phrase at the surveillance thing event at Leonard Lodge. She said it was lazy power. The idea of the federal government that just uses as much technology as is possible to control citizenry for whatever reason it needs to, but it has those strings attached if they're needed down the road. And lazy power is an interesting phrase.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody else before I go to Gary?
Yeah, to say it's lazy power, it's a matter of this system. I have put a bunch of Marxist analysis here that there's a fundamental conflict between workers and employers, and as soon as it becomes a fight back, they need to help get rid of it. And one of the other things that's a counterproductive thing, unfortunately I heard it at the very seminar at the last time, is that we just somehow fine-tune this thing and get the Patriot Act repassed with the five bad things. Literally, that was urged at the thing. In fact, they even mentioned that the one who was proposing it was one who originally made the thing. So any kind of reform or fine-tuning, we've learned a lesson of the new revision. We should be opposed to every one of the things and not a dime for the police and spies whatsoever.
Absolutely. And I think just on that quick note, and I'll just put down, this is about social control, but just on that, I think as progressive activists, however we want to see ourselves, these situations also create dilemma as well. That what is our principles? Are we going to compromise or are we going to negotiate? And what's interesting is that this whole brouhaha about the act in Congress with Jim Sensenbrenner, he's the guy who gave us HR 4432. He was the guy who declared every undocumented individual as a felon, and not just as an undocumented individual as a felon. Anybody who's helping the undocumented immigrant is a felon as well. It's the same thing that recently this NDAA bill was passed with Tim Donnelly. Tim Donnelly is running for governor. Tim Donnelly is one of the founders of Minutemen. Tim Donnelly is one of the people who is a hardcore Tea Party group. So I'm just throwing this because this is a very active political space as well, that, what are the options here that we have to go back to the same actors who really create these conditions for us. I'm always intrigued by when you hear on the radio, sometimes on the show, and they have been there, but now they are here to lecture us. And they're the ones who created these conditions. So anyway, just something to throw in the mix. So any other comments any questions about the system, the apparatus, or where this shit's going?
Yeah, I feel like I wonder how they, when they're doing the SAR, how do they know that it's you or it's not somebody that looks like you? And when they create this profile, is it just your habits, your routines, or are they including somebody who is doing bullshit and just looks like you? And how do they identify you?
So when you look at it, you'll also see SARs which would be on an abandoned backpack as well. Okay. So that would be suspicious too. So there are several layers to this SARs, well not layers, but some different behaviors too, or activity. And it could be anywhere. They may not even know your name, but still a file. So that's basically, in a way, when you look at all that, you're like, man, this is where our resources are going.
It's an
They have
unknown
nothing to
file.
do. So they just like, unknown file, like what is good is that for? But it's very known, it would also be then started investigating. So in essence, so what happens is structurally that if LAPD doesn't think that it measures up to a certain level, if there's a nexus to criminal activity or terrorism, they retain it. They don't send it to a fusion center. But then records are showing that 98% of them are going to the fusion center, where then they're uploaded for everybody. But the kicker here is that even if nothing is there, and the Inspector General audit showed that LAPD is retaining those, and now they want to retain them for 10 years. So even if nothing is going on, you are in the LAPD Major Crimes Division file for 10 years. When it goes to the Fusion Center, they also do a second layer of analysis, and if it shows there's some nexus, they upload them into the information sharing environment. If nothing happens, FBI keeps your file for 30 years. So just completely, you are in some database or another. So, that's how the idea is that, well, whatever, maybe liability, we need to find out, and that's how they make connections.
How did they mess up in like the Boston bombing? Was there a SARS for the Boston bombing?
Yes, that's an argument that a lot of people have brought up, that, with all this, and this is very interesting, that a US Senate subcommittee did an audit of these fusion centers. And this came out just before the Boston bombing was in April of 2013. The subcommittee audit of Homeland Security, US Senate, of fusion centers came out in October 2012. And they put a scathing report about the fusion center. They said that intelligence gathering, which basically goes from local police departments like LAPD to fusion center, and I'm quoting, it's irrelevant, useless, outdated, duplicative, and a potential violation of civil liberties. This is after the federal government has spent $1.4 billion, which is only 22% of their budget. And I'll finish, give me one second. Washington Post wrote about that report, and they called fusion centers as pools of ineptitude. LAPD Deputy Chief Mike Downing was asked about who heads counterterrorism. He was asked about that report, and I'm quoting him. He said, "There's a lot of white noise, but an occasional gold nugget." But he couldn't point to a single conviction coming out of this gold nugget. So that's your point. So it's a needle in a haystack approach. Yes, sir. No.
I want to mention that I lived in a country, Romania, under Ceausescu, where this was very much in force. And I can tell you from the mind of a 9-year-old, how I remember things is that we were whispering in our home. Whenever we talked about the regime or anything political, it was whispering. Furthermore, we would listen to the radio of the Voice of America because Western propaganda was better than Romanian propaganda. And that radio was tuned. First of all, I was not allowed to touch it as a child because the regime was what's it called? Like interfering with the radio wave on that frequency. So if I touched it as a child and I played with the radio, I would get a spanking because it would be hard to find the signal again. And even that was always in a very, very low volume, and we would huddle around it in the evening to listen to the Romanian portion of the Voice of America. So I can very much see this basically leading us to that.
And I think that's what comes to the whole issue of social control, that, because of all this, you start suspecting each other, you're in fear of each other, and then you start altering your behavior. And by altering your behavior, you further kind of dig a deeper hole for yourself, because then you start acting that you're non-normal, and you're like, it becomes a bigger oh shit moment. So go there and then do his thing.
Definitely. So how, as a social activist that I am, how do I turn the tables on them and use my camera to expose them and have some sort of transparency? There was that film that came out a couple of years ago, Burma VJ, where these people actually were banned to have, cameras to document the atrocities that were being inflicted on them. And they just, through their own resiliency, found ways to get cameras. There was that other film too, was it 5 cameras or something? Yeah. I'm very, very inspired by these activists that will just go to lengths to just be able to document these atrocities that are befalling.
And that's where the Watching the Watchers comes in, and cop watch and all that, and I'm sure that...
And to illustrate just today, was it today? No, yesterday, when we were getting some petitions, we saw a displaced individual saying that he was videoing a policeman harassing someone, and he got a ticket for videoing.
Permit, not having a permit?
Yeah,
I would like to talk with him.
and then he chucked the camera to a friend of his, and his friend split.
Yeah.
And so they were just kind of like, you know, they didn't know what to do, and then they just tried to tag him with something that they could find to harass him with. But he was using his,
I think there's several tactics, like one of the TV watchers, and I'm sure like the right to take photograph and film in the house will be, John will cover that and we'll correct them. Just stay on and here, and then we'll just do a real quick call to action and we'll move on.
I wanted to go into a little bit more what you asked, the Boston bomber, and specifically, there's a recently published, I don't know, what was it, 2 weeks ago, the Brennan Report, which is the Brennan Institute, which is a part of the New York University School of Law, and they did a fairly reformist, easygoing audit of this program, and they specifically cited this incident in which the brother of the now on trial Boston bomber, who was complicit in it as well, allegedly, had gone to Russia and come back to the United States. The Russians submitted a SAR, or more or less, let the United States know about this guy's proclivities to join underground groups or something like that. And they missed it. I mean, like, not only are these people inept who are analyzing all this data, they have so much of it that they don't even know what to do with it, and they actually miss real potential threats. I mean, let's not even get to the conversation of why the threat exists, the chickens come home in a roost argument, but let's just stick with that. And they're so inept, and they're collecting so much data that they don't even know what they're looking at or looking for.
It's just under control. So do you have any comments?
Yeah, a couple questions. Does the press pass make you immune from the SAR? If you have a press pass, that's my question. The other question is, what's the legality of the drones being in private property?
I think that whole thing is still, but they have not, I'm told by, and I leave it up to John. I mean, I know that the FAA is mandated to reconfigure the whole airspace to accommodate the drones. And then, of course, the one case that we know of, that drones were used in Kansas, where they were able to find cattle thieves. Some cattle was stolen, and they used a drone to identify and go after these cattle thieves, and it was in somebody else's backyard or ranch. So I don't know if that was private property or not, if that addresses that. But these are again things in the making, and we'll find out as we go. The press pass, I'm not sure about.
If there's a drone in somebody's property and they knock it out or whatever, is that?
I mean, okay, yes, so,
What is the law? Am I allowed to videotape the police?
So John's gonna go into that no rights. So that's coming up next. He's gonna hold that thought real quick because he's gonna go do that. We just want to, and this part of it is by, where is this thing going? And where are we at with the Stop LAPD Spine Coalition? I think the first piece really is that what we are asking, again, as thought partners, strategic partners, and action partners, that we need to really get this word out. I mean, was this, first of all, helpful for all of you in becoming more aware? So I think a lot of our communities don't know, and that's one of our primary functions is to engage in outreach and education. That's very, very critical. Then to organize and to take action. Some of where we are right now is so that starting with the Stop LAPD Spine Coalition released its people's audit of LAPD's policies, and then we were invited by the LA City Human Relations Commission to present that. And finally, it took us 7 months, that started in April of 2013. On October 10th of last year, of 2013, the Human Relations Commission finally passed a motion after they had heard some of it, which included them inviting the LAPD as well to make a presentation, that they passed a motion to hold public forums and or hearings in LAPD's suspicious activity reporting program, gang injunctions, and other issues of public safety. So these would be one of the first hearings that will be happening. We are demanding that there are hearings because we don't want forums. We want hearings because we want LAPD under oath. We want LAPD to be subpoenaed because they would lie regardless. So might as well, why don't they lie under oath? So so let's take them to where it is. So that's the fight that we have. The other piece that we're doing is going to neighborhood council by neighborhood council. Where there are 95 neighborhood councils in the city, We've gotten 2 neighborhood councils, the South Central Neighborhood Council and the Rampart Village Neighborhood Council already passed resolution against LAPD's Special Order 1 in the iWatch program. They have also, Rampart also took it the next step and said that they would actively support the Human Relations Commission resolution to hold public hearings and forums, and they would like to bring some of those forums and hearings into their community as well. We have 2 resolutions now. The Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council is considering a resolution this next, on the 20th, and then the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council is considering a resolution on the 25th. We've been approaching the Venice Neighborhood Council. Esteban went and made a presentation in January. We were invited to upload all that stuff. It was sent to them. On Monday, we went to the admin committee meeting, which was considering this resolution for their meeting on the 18th. Well, they decided not to consider the resolution and they sent it to the Public Safety Committee. So now we have to go back to the Venice Neighborhood Council's Public Safety Committee to argue for this thing. So I think that's where we are. We're asking you for your support. We're asking you for your active participation. We ask you that, just come together. The Stop LAPD Spying Coalition has its monthly meetings as well. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, the 18th. We meet at the UCLA Downtown Labor Center. We'd love to have more meetings over here as well. We're also planning to escalate, because one of the things that is happening is that the mayor is changing the makeup of the commission. There are new commissioners coming in. And there is definitely pushback from the LAPD. The LAPD does not want us to hold hearings. The LAPD doesn't want this to be touched. So it will require mass escalation on this thing. The next meeting for the HRC Commission is on March 6th. We'll advise you and keep you going and keep you updated as to where this action is. We're also, on December of 2012, we went to the Fusion Center and then basically shut it down. I think that was, which is Jerry and Norwalk. We're planning to go back now and go and take another action at the Fusion Center as well. And that's going to happen very soon. So I think this is where the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition is going, and it can, and we strongly believe that it's only going to be a people's movement. Because, this is the time to do it. How do we then incorporate police spying, surveillance, infiltration into an everyday organizing? It's not something, it's not something sensationalist. It's not only James Bondy or espionage. It's very real, it's every day. We're seeing how people's lives are being destroyed. We saw what COINTELPRO did. We saw what the Red Squads have done. We see this whole apparatus where now they're scaling back trash collection and the courts are closed and all the social services are being cut back, but they have the money to go on all this. We have documentation of millions of dollars in 2008, 2009, with the LA City Council passing these contracts with these companies, which were started by the head of the CIA. So it's only going to be a people's action, and we're asking for you to join this struggle and be a part of this thing. So if there's no other questions, thank you.
Can I just ask this young lady to please move out of the doorway? It makes me really uncomfortable. I need a door to be a doorway. You're sitting in the door. If you can come into the room, I would really appreciate it.
Scoot to the side.
It's
Just
just,
very
it's
quiet.
just
Very quiet. No worries.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
One thing I want to throw out there is
It's,
the drum circle. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was a helicopter, flying over, a little drone. I recorded it on my camera, but I don't know if it was for a video or if anybody knows if it was the police or if it was a community who does not like the drum circle. If you guys know about it, let me know. But I'm curious if that was actually a drone.
Our mask, I sapiens.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what it was. It had a red and green flashing on it, but I don't know if that was
Could be
police or what.
No, that's a drone,
Oh,
yeah.
the
They
little-
had one at the,
The drum circle,
at
right?
the Pier concerts for the Jimmy Cliff show, and I thought it was like, oh wow, look at the pretty lights. And so 5 minutes later, and I was like,
Yeah, it's a
wait
camera
minute,
on it, and
that's like,
Oh,
sky, that's a
there was,
drone.
they flew a professional, full-blown, like you only see on TV and the internet, drone from the Venice sign. 3, 4-bladed helicopter,
Yeah.
full-blown professional drone.
oh yeah, it was smooth.
Went all the way towards the end of the block, and then went back. And I'm the admin of one of the biggest anti-drone groups in Facebook, Stop Drones Across
But is this
America.
someone making a
And
film?
my draw was on
It
the,
could be several
on the
things
ground.
going on, yeah. So I know that we gotta go into this thing. I just want to quickly, Barry, you have a comment, and then
One
we'll
comment
close it.
on the Russians having gotten transmitted the information on the Chechen terrorists. One thing is the Cubans had caught the ones who were bombing and doing all kinds of illegal activities against Cuba, transmitted to that, and instead of arresting the ones that were doing the bombing and the spying, they arrested 5 people, and that case is called the Cuban Five. One of them is pending, has been released, his grandmother or whatever got very ill. Another one has served the 15 years, but this Frida is still there, and every one of the 5 says until all 5 are out, it's all 5 that are, and not just simply the 3 that are remaining. One of them, in case he does a Lazarus trick twice, he still has 15 years to serve after he serves 2 life sentences.
Thank you, Eric. So just in closing, I just want to ask that how many people would be willing to organize another teach-in or an outreach if this information was helpful? I mean, can we reach out to the community and do that? I'm sorry? Yeah, I was going to get that. And then if, how many people would be willing to join or support the work of the Stop NAPD Spying Coalition in really dismantling this whole apparatus? People willing to come out to the Human Relations Commission demanding this thing, people willing to come out to the Fusion Center and shut that piece of shit down. So look out for us. We're going to pass out, and of course, talk about information gathering. We want your information. But then, with Deb and Brian and Patty and Mike and Brian, Barry and all of them, we're all part of this movement together. Because, it's all about us. Because a lot of times, social justice is, immigrant rights movement, there's a lot of fight for undocumented immigrants, housing of people who are unhoused. This is about us as well. I mean, this is about the defending the human rights defenders. Each one of us is a moving target. Because we are challenging the system, we're gonna bring it down. So thank you all very much.
I'm gonna archive real quick.